We are live. Welcome to my thoughts on Arrow Season 1, Episode 11, Trust But Verify. Now, the episode is rated TV 14, so will this video be? There will be spoilers for the episode and the ones leading up to it, and another episode I love. Let's dive right in. So, yeah, another cool wrinkle to the overall episode. The sort of formula that they're making sure to not rely on to the point where it gets to be formulaic. Yeah, one of the names in there is a friend of Dig, who he still trusts, and yeah, I thought they handled it really, really nicely. Also really like this thing of like now Thea is feeling like Moira is bouncing back too fast. Which, ultimately we know it's because, at the end of the day, Walter is still alive. Believe me, he is still alive. She sees proof later. And the. Crap. I think there was also a conversation between her and, Mr. Merlin. I appreciate the show started making references to King Arthur as well. Was bound to happen sooner or later. I think. Does that more or less bring us to. Yeah, and they, I really love the element of the car because, like, at the very start of the episode, it's like, typical, 18-year-old really wants a car for their birthday. I've heard that's a lot. That's a thing. It wasn't for me personally, but for a lot of people. By the end, she's crashed that car, and they did say, I think it was Oliver who said, she's, told Thea, you still, what was it like? There's something about like backing out the driveway. She got in a car accident. So, as soon as we see her in the car, like, I appreciate they don't draw it out because, like, we know where this is going. And yeah, by the end, the whole thing with the drugs, she thought she had it under control, but yeah, driving under the influence, I don't know. Um, I suppose it's possible that they'll plea affluenza. I guess we'll see. Um, yeah, I let's do some chronological stuff. So they she keeps trying to yeah she's dropping hints about wanting the car. She's trying to figure out if Moira's gonna get her the car, and that is also like the fact that Moira, sometimes she does give her offspring more than they should receive. I think the does that pretty well bring us to so yeah the heists really cool. Yeah, it's it understands like at first it's just like holy crap. Well, I guess I know who Oliver's going to be fighting this episode, and then later you have this thing of the emotional, no, Ted wasn't there. Oh, he was running it. He's not on scene, but he is, yeah. I mean, that's really really gets to Dig, finding out that your old friend that you trusted is middle management. I mean, thief. Let's see. I think the but yeah, and then the last heist. It's this thing of like, is Dig really gonna do this? Is he gonna hurt these people? And yeah, really really nicely done. I think that does pretty well bring us to. Let's see. Yeah, the thing about yeah, Dig feels confident and questions the list. You know, the and yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of see how he would be like, well, what if Obama and Comey put some names on there? I mean, he might feel like, well, Ted, you know, I knew him. He's a good guy. He can't possibly. There's something wrong with the list. And yeah, the thing about, I understand if you want to take a week off. And I think that does bring us to so yeah, Thea and Moira, you know, going shopping together, some bonding time, and then you know, yeah, there's a call. It's Malcolm on the mobile. Life is unfair. Now Thea's not going to get to spend more time with Moira, and it's very nicely done that yeah, like she just sees the two of them together, and you know, I mean, is you know, Occam's razor blade. It's the yeah, the what's the word? Obviously, it's a more you know like Thea doesn't know about all this like behind the scenes stuff, so she assumes affair, and I think that brings us to the. But yeah, they did a really good job on the opening heist. This thing of like, yeah, they are actually hurting people. It's made very clear. It goes beyond just like you know stealing. I think that does pretty well bring us to so the yeah Malcolm calling Tommy. And I gotta say, by the end of the episode, I don't know. I'm withholding judgment until I'm a little more sure, but I can kind of see how maybe Malcolm thinks that this is going to shape Tommy into a better person. You know, he hasn't seen him much recently, so he doesn't know that Laurel is already doing a really good job on that front, on turning, you know, Tommy with you know Tommy asked for it. It's not one of those you know some misogynists think you know women just weaken us. No, they just listen. I'm not saying every single woman, but a lot of women. And I'm not saying gender essentialism either. I'm saying socialization. A lot of women are socialized to actually become, you know, really decent people and to help us men become that when we are, you know, friends with them or romantically involved with them. Um, but yeah, the bit there at the end where he, you know, touches the photo makes me think maybe he really does. But is he trying to turn him decent or is he trying to like recruit him for the, you know, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, you know, taking so much from him and then saying, you know, oh, your mother's free clinic is gonna, you know, be taken down as well. Like it's yeah, I am not sure. I can't help but wonder if instead of trying to turn him into a good man, he's trying to, you know, basically like break his spirit and then build him back up in his own image. I think that does bring. So yeah, so Oliver goes after Ted, and Dig shows up, which you know, because he you know earlier he said that you know he was offered a job, but you know apparently didn't take it. So he turned Blackhawk down, but the yeah, you know he stands there with you know, and you know points the gun at Oliver, and very clever of Oliver, you know the causing a distraction and grabbing the security fob. and yeah, fobbing off Felicity. I real, you know what, Oliver? You had better get this woman some red wine. You know, you told her there was a bottle in it for you, and now she's all like, I guess there's no wine in it for me because it's not really, you know, ah, crap. Did that sound infantilizing? I just mean like she's disappointed. But the, yeah, um, that was also such a great, like, you know, and the, yeah, she's like, huh, I was thinking I was done being, you know, Mr. Queen's personal lab geek. Does that mean you missed me? No. I mean, if you want to take it that way, I guess you can. Just, yeah. Um, let's see. I think that does pretty well bring us to the, right. I also liked, you know, you might want to add an additional entrance point to your arrow cave. See, I'm still a little unclear on if Batman exists in this universe because I feel like that's the kind of thing you say if because it's not that much of a cave. It's a basement, you know. But yeah, it's a fun reference, regardless. I think that brings us to the let's see, yeah, Thea telling Oliver is also quite good, and Oliver talking to Moira, and she, you know, she understands how this situation ended up. Yeah, and that's one of those things because like Thea obviously didn't overhear the conversation. She just saw these two people together. Yeah, like it would actually have been worse in a way if she had overheard and went to Oliver saying, you know, mom's like, you know, because there was just enough incriminating, you know, conversation there for her to hear. But obviously at that distance and through like glass, there's no way she heard, you know. So she's just reacting to the fact that they're standing close to each other, and that Moira canceled their day together to be with him. You know, that does sound like, yeah. Um, I think that does bring us to, yeah. So when Felicity says, you know, I think you got the wrong fob, and it's like, you know, I think, what was it? I think you stumbled onto, or got me to stumble onto, you know, just, yeah. And let's see, then we have the um yeah, you know, it's like, I think we should tell the police, and he's like, I will absolutely do that. Tell you what, why don't you forward it to me? Which, like, honestly, like, in a way, it's not like the worst, you know. I mean, what's the police gonna do in this situation against, you know, like military, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I guess they might actually finally get some use for those, you know, the military hardware that a lot of American police has received in recent years. They could use that on someone who isn't like just a regular person for once. I don't know. I think they'd have to pinch themselves to be like, wow, is this really happening? I thought we were just gonna brutalize citizens. But the I think that brings us to, yeah, yeah, Dig and Oliver talking, and, you know, yeah, um, obviously, understandably, very frustrated about the, yeah, um, and the, yeah, you know, yeah, let's see, Oliver trusted Dig to not show up and protect, you know, but Dig is like, listen, I have an inn, I can serve beer. I mean, an inn with one N. I can investigate from inside. And I think that does pretty well bring us to right. And it's one of those things. By the end of the episode, we find out Ted is a bad guy. I think we might be looking at broken clock. Is right. Twice a day sort of thing. Of course, if it was Trump using that, he would say, "Oh, it's right 100% of the time, 1,000% of the time. It's a big, beautiful clock. Little baby, 12 years old, 30 dolls." I think Ted might be right that she likes Dig. That is, yeah. And it's one of those things, like, it's complicated because, like, he doesn't want to, dishonor his brother's memory, but, it's one of those things, like, I mean, wouldn't his brother want the two of them to be happy, even if it means they're together? Like, obviously, it would be really messed up if his brother were still alive. Then it's cheating, but, yeah. I think that does pretty well bring us to the and yeah, he doesn't get any cake because he, there was a while where he was like, I don't know, those people saying that X-Men 97 took away Rogue's cake, I think they might have a point. He came to, he became himself again, started talking sense, but still. I think, does that bring us to the... But yeah, the thing with Knox, I know you don't trust him, but if he wasn't working for me, he would be, what was it, robbing banks. Which, yeah, that's an interesting thing to say, Ted. And it's such a great, because, like, when we hear that, we and Dig think, oh, so he, like, knows. And then later, when it seems like maybe Ted's not involved, we think, oh, I guess he knows Knox so well. And then, it turns out he is in on it. Oh, okay, so he knows Knox so well that he knows Knox is part of the thing he's telling Knox to do. Got it. I think that does pretty well bring us to... let's see. We have the final heist. Great tension. Oh, right. Okay. I gotta talk to him about the second heist. Holy crap! Firing the arrow to get the secure the gun, and yeah, there's like several guys there with automatic weapons, so he has to jump and dodge. Really cool stuff. And the right, he does take he manages to use a garbage can lid as a shield. I don't think it's a nod to Darkman 3, but I'll take it. That Darkman 3 is so much better than Darkman 2. It's not even funny. Anyway, obviously neither of them can touch Darkman 1, but I don't think it was reasonable to expect considering circumstance. Sam Raimi wasn't making, he wasn't directing those two movies. Anyway, we have the. He manages to use that as a shield and gets out alive, but it is also enough that they get away with only one, truly wounded individual. But that was also great, because they say the name several times and it's not Gaynor, so because that was the big thing. We thought Gaynor was the one with the, I would say, M203, the grenade launcher. I think that the third heist, really great tension because we are sitting there thinking, I mean, if Dig were ever to do it, it would definitely be for her, but he refuses, and then the thing about You're forgetting one thing. I'm the one with the grenade launcher. So badass. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, like, Ted thinks that he knows Dig well enough. You know, he says as much shortly after. So he thought he could get him to shoot on the car, and he thought that Dig wouldn't shoot at them. Let's see. And that was also great because, like, when they're there, when all of them are there in the car, you know, Knox, Ted, I keep forgetting her name. I want to say Christina. You know, that yeah, works out. It's there's the tension of we don't know if, you know, they yeah, if he doesn't shoot, the, you know, what might they do to Christina. But then they step out of the car, and yeah, like there's just enough distance there that he can attack them without hurting Christina. And then we have, you know, the let's see, I think was it Knox going after Christina, and Arrow stops Knox, and Ted. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on exactly the. Sometimes recording in the morning is not not fully awake yet. Anyway, but yeah, it's they split the various characters up nicely. Um, and yeah, ultimately it is Arrow who stops Ted rather than Dig. And I think that does. Let's see. So there's obviously some stuff at the party. Yeah, I thought they right, and the flashbacks. Okay, before I get to that, I did think they did a good job. I really like that Laurel is like, you know, maybe your father really does want to reconnect, and yeah, it is sort of this thing of like, I don't know, I'm not sure he was just using the dinner. That might be Tommy. Just yeah, and you know, we have that thing about he, you know, after Mom died, he just disappeared for a while. I'm pretty sure he wasn't looking for. Is that too much of a? I guess that's a spoiler. I think I'll leave it at that. Anyway, yeah, you know, and we realize, yeah, because he was doing, you know, yeah, it was that other thing, the people on the list kind of thing. And yeah, like I'm not ready to exonerate Malcolm for a list of reasons, but I do wonder if they are trying to do. Yeah, right now my money is on it being either he's trying to make him into an adult, or he's trying to get him to join the list. Let's see, and I honestly, like, I can't rule out if Tommy does start to become more open to Malcolm, maybe he is gonna start, you know, considering joining if it yeah, um, but it's yeah, yeah, you know, the dinner. He seemed genuinely invested. He seemed to like Laurel and wanting to get to know her and such. I think that might just about cover that. And yeah, like, I don't. Could there be some things that we don't know about the free clinic, or is it just that he's trying to convince him? Because yeah, I mean, he said, you know, how could you know what your mother would want? You were 8 when she died. Like, maybe there is something. Although shutting down a free clinic, unless it's really a cover for something, which I guess would have to mean it was a cover for something that Malcolm's not involved in, because we know he's involved in at least something that they really badly want to cover up, that they're killing people to cover up. yeah. Let's see. I think that does pretty well cover. Uh, yeah. So the um, I think. Yeah, so the flashbacks, again, really solid stuff. You know, yeah, Oliver goes full cosplay, Counter-Strike wannabe, and yeah, um, you know, the thing about, yeah, he tries to find, because he assumes that the mentor is a captive, and we find out by the end of the episode, no, he just, you know, he was just being dragged back to service. And he even, you know, he tricked him. You know, he knew, oh, this is Oliver. This is definitely Oliver. And instead of the two of them leaving together, he gets him to the cages so that Oliver can end up in one of the cages, which, like, very clever. The thing about, you know, this is where we keep the prisoners that are most difficult to you know, most likely to run away, something like that. And then he has the mentor take off the balaclava and just, yeah, holy crap. Um, and it's smart because, like, overall we haven't heard the mentor speak all that much, so it's not quite enough that we will recognize his voice very easily, especially like when he speaks English. There's just a slightly different, the way, you know, yeah, different languages, you sound different in them. And the, yeah, the test about, you know, a submarine, I thought plane. And, you know, it seemed like he passed the test, but it was still, you know, yeah, I guess it was because he looked into his eyes. That was when he knew. Let's see. And, you know, he's like, why do you think my men wear balaclavas? So you can reuse the same actors, would be my guess. But the, let's see, I think that might, and I think, isn't there also some rule about you don't have to pay an extra as much if you can't even see their face? I think that does. Oh, I like the discussion about music at the start. You know, club music versus jazz, and, you know, yeah, he's like, there ought to be a law. Well, there isn't, so he switches it back. And then, you know, like, we find out this is Black Hawk, but for a second, I wonder if the, you know, the other guy's like, oh crap, they just passed that law, didn't they? And yeah, just holy crap. So the next flashbacks are gonna have Oliver in the cage, and, you know, trying to figure out why did Mentor, you know, betray him like this. I think, does that pretty well bring us to, and it's also kind of funny to think about, you know, oh, new day, same slop, which, like, so far he's mostly, like, when he speaks, the mentor's imbuing some sort of wisdom, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's probably just for our benefit, but I can't help but feel like he's kind of saying, well, you know, the island still sucks for you, doesn't it? Even though it's in a slightly different way. Um, anyway, I think that does just leave the party. So yeah, it's, they handle it so well. This thing of, like, you know, she's holding up the keys, like, yeah, yeah, I got the car. And at the time we're thinking, oh, that's sweet. And then not long after, not so much. And, you know, her friends come by with, you know, something that they think she might enjoy. Vertigo. Unfortunately, not the movie. That one is amazing. And she points out how upset her mom would be if, and by the end of the episode, we haven't seen her mom's reaction, right? Because it was only Oliver there when she was arrested. So I'm looking for that's going to be a dramatic moment of, yeah. And that is, again, like, they said earlier, oh, you keep, in an earlier episode, I mean, you keep getting arrested, yeah, this is, drug offenses is, yeah. And I guess we'll see how it's like so far, they'd be able to get her out. I guess it's possible they'll be able to have them not, have the charges be dropped. But it's still gonna really put a rift between Moira and Thea, and it is also one of those things. Throughout the episode, there's been a growing rift. She said, "You don't know Mom. She's a liar and a cheater." And I think that does bring us to, let's see, and yeah, even when she shows up, at the hospital, Thea's like, just leave. And yeah, so the party, yeah, she's about to go hide the drugs. And then, she sees what she continues to think is cheating, which, again, is one of those things, the way that, Malcolm putting his hand on Moira's back, yeah, one can understand why that is a, perceived as, and I mean, it's one of those things, in a twisted sort of way, probably is some sort of tenderness, but it's, it's not sexual. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Moira and Malcolm were anyone's OTP while this show is going on. What would, sometimes they'll combine the names of the characters. What would it be? Moicum? Malra? Malra sounds like something Gamera would fight. But yeah, unfortunately that is, if someone is already sometimes using drugs and they see something they find deeply upsetting, yeah, they're likely to use drugs, and yeah, really, really well handled, that whole thing, and just, yeah, it worked really well. The moment that we see her, yeah, with in the car, like, she is trying to have fun, trying to cheer herself up, but we know immediately this is gonna go badly. And yeah, I'm not a driver myself, but I think it's a thing of like too much speed in a turn or something like that, and so she only sees the other car when it's too late for her to really slow down, so she swerves and crashes. And I think that does bring us to, yeah, let's see. I yeah, I do also wonder if Felicity might figure out, so, about Oliver being the hood, because she, finds this stuff and says, oh, this is like that, the what's it called, the heists. Maybe the police could use this to predict the next one. And she doesn't, Oliver tells her not to send to the police, but to him. And I mean, I can imagine it would make the news, especially when it happens twice. Although I guess the second, no, yeah, because he fired arrows. There were arrows. Even if Diggs says that he didn't see Arrow, he wouldn't have had time to get rid of the arrows. So, yeah, that could be a thing. I think I've said everything that I had for this episode. Let's see. Yeah. I think. I guess. Does that more or less leave the? 'Cause I feel like there was something else. I really like Laurel's. That you were adorable as a kid. The thing with Arthur, the cat. No, sorry, dog. Yeah, puppy for Christmas. And also, yeah, her talking about the what's it called? The was it the yeah the thing about she always tries to see the best in people, and she says, "Lucky for you." Um, and apparently Malcolm has started calling Laurel, so he does want to be part of Tommy's life, which again we don't know if it's good or bad. Like I will admit, the moment that there was the thing about oh, he wants us all for dinner, I was thinking, oh, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, is that what we're about to yeah. um I mean, by this point, I think it is pretty clear. Like, if something like that were to happen, Arrow of the show could definitely be, up on the ceiling like that. That is definitely, yeah. And, you know, maybe up there on the ceiling, he could find Knox's biggest fan.